Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Welcome back to the show. If you've been following us for quite some time, if you've been listening in, you'll know how much of a personal interest I have in leadership. And a part of the reason for that, total honesty, is because maybe, like some of you can relate, I kind of have a fear that I might go through my career having an unintended impact on people, because I've seen things with the best of intentions not go the way that people want them to. And maybe the way I lead or fail to lead could leave a mark I never really meant to. So I think very few people really study leadership. Too often we assume we can just pull it out of our back pocket, lean on a few inspirational quotes and go on a day's course or stick some words up on a wall and just call it leadership. But I don't think it's that simple. I think leadership is complex, it's human, and it shapes the culture of our organizations. Definitely more than anything else. And if we want an optimistic future for the UK Fire and Rescue Service, I think we have to give leadership the attention it deserves, because whether it's at a station level, an on-call, or one-to-one, or even at the chief officer rank, the decisions our leaders make affect trust, confidence, and the very fabric of how we work together. That's why I was so keen to sit down with Mark Baxter, Chief Fire Officer of Lincolnshire. Mark and I have spent a fair bit of time together at a few different events and sector occasions, if you will. And together, today we explored not just leadership, but personal growth, but also the vital role of things like community engagement. You know, we dipped into things like fire cadets, the opportunities and challenges within the on-call firefighting, and how apprenticeships can often open pathways as well for like the next generation of firefighters and leaders. And I talked about the importance of qualifications and standardization in the sector, the role of local resilience forums in major incidents, and also how supporting neurodiversity and different learning styles can really strengthen the fire service as a whole. This conversation, it's hopefully going to give some nudges and hints towards understanding the leadership journey and also Mark's journey as a leader. It's not just a title, it's not a switch you can flick, but hopefully we'll get some insights into how this should be a lifelong practice of learning, failing, reflecting, and hopefully growing in a way that leaves people better because they've worked with you. So let's get into it with my good friend, Mark Baxter. I'll see you on the other side. You can never separate the person from the role entirely. So we've had lots of conversations in the past. I've been lucky enough to spend a bit of time together. And I wanted to kick us off with sort of an element around, is it possible to develop great leadership without some really intentional, serious personal growth reflections?
I don't. They're not mutually exclusive. I think naturally you'll get personal growth development. I think what my interesting reflections on leadership over a number of years, leadership. You can get the leadership training and the leadership development that going through. The absolute link about you as a person over a number of years. I think it's also recognition you will change over a number of years. There'll be so many external influences in your life. For me, I know for a fact my leadership change and development was absolutely hand in hand from when I have a family, when I'm getting older, when I'm changing priorities in my personal life, has an absolute direct impact on how I am as a leader. And I don't see that as a negative. I think we should embrace that, because you're taking the learning from everything in life, bringing that into your leadership and sharing that with your people.
I think having a child is like one of the best personal development hacks, but I don't think it's something you could prescribe on someone's personal development program. But it is. Like, I remember when I had my daughter, that was when I first started going through recovery, and it makes you think so much about the way you come across to somebody else. And in this instance, it's your child or your partner. For people that don't have children, it's like, desired impact versus impact felt. I'm trying to relate this. I'm trying to build rapport. I want this person to feel heard, whatever. With a lot of other people in your life, you can then sort of go, oh, well, that's so-and-so's problem, or maybe they just don't get it or whatever. And you shouldn't be like that, hopefully, at work with your teams. But at the end of the day, you can just like write it off in your head and go, well, work is work. Yeah. But if it starts to show up in your personal life, especially with like a child that you love and whatever. But again, we're not saying that people that don't have children or don't have a partner don't make good leaders.
No, absolutely not.
But you can't split test life, can you? It
No.
does seem to grow a significant. How do you think people can develop that sort of awareness, emotional intelligence in the absence of perhaps some of those in life? I mean, I know again it's hard to say because you have those things, but it's like for people that feel like, well, that's not me. I'm screwed. Then how do I do it? Like, what would you suggest or ways for people to manifest that?
Yeah, I think really interesting question because absolutely, whether you've got a family, whether you've not got a family, whatever you put, that shouldn't have a direct impact if you're going to be a successful leader or not.
Yeah,
but I think there's something about if you haven't experienced anything yourself, go and spend time with somebody who has. And there's a bit that kind of links into regards to the general inclusion and diversity agenda we talked through. So how would I look at that? Again, I grow up as a white male. I have not got experiences of what it's like being a female within the organisation. I haven't got that lived experience. What I have got the opportunity is spend time with people who have absolutely got that lived experience, and it's about spending the time to learn from other people, because it's not about that people all have better or worse experiences, but it's trying to give you as most rounded experience as you possibly can to try and open up your perspective and context. So in my advice would always be is if you've not experienced it or you're not exposed to it, actively seek out people who have and have those lived experiences, spend the time to talk through what the challenge is, what their thoughts are, what their views are, to give you an opportunity to understand.
How much of that bridge do you think we can cross between like sympathy and empathy if we put it in a framework of something like direct entry or the middle to senior leadership team of people coming in from different organizations? Like you've said, it's hard to relate to someone if you don't have the same lived experience. Some of it's necessary, some of it's not, if we place our mind slightly for a second in the operational world. But then the more you get into senior leadership teams, some of the bigger challenges aren't necessarily operationally focused. How much of that is relevant and necessary? Because people coming into the organizations, equally when we think of Green Book staff or just general direct entry people, firefighters can be very romantic. You started your career as an on-call firefighter. So as much as, like, if I was a member of your team and you were relating to and celebrating a new person that's come in and, hey, you know what I mean? I know they don't come from a firefighting background, but they're still this and they're still that and they're still great. And we all agree. In the back of my mind, I'm still going, yeah, Mark, but you were a firefighter. Like, you get it. Do you know what I mean? And that can be a small thing or a big thing, depending how romantic certain members of your organization are or are not about the purest profession of firefighting, if you will. That's got to be quite difficult for people that do have a lot of value to add that are coming into this sector. This episode is brought to you in partnership with Godiva Limited. Godiva is one of the world's leading providers of specialist equipment for emergency services market. Godiva produces a comprehensive range of fire pumps, including vehicle-mounted, portable, and their cutting-edge integrated total water flow control system, SAMFlows. I've been using Godiva my entire career as a reliable pump on the fire ground. It is such a crucial element of a successful firefighting team that you want to empower your crews with the very best, reliable, quality product. Reach out to our partners by checking the notes in the podcast. Now back to the show.
And it is, and if I'm honest, I think that's a challenge for us. If we really want to mature the fire sector, if we really want to move the fire sector forward to the future proof, we need to recognise we need a balance. We need an eclectic mix of experiences coming through, and also, don't worry, I'm very, very passionate clear. We still need a clear backbone of that operational experience and operational competence, because that's still the key, one of the key statutory duties. It's still key DNA, but that isn't the only way that we're going to move forward within the fire sector. We need all those experiences that I've not experienced. So absolutely, I came from being an on-call firefighter. I've been operational all the way through. I'm also responsible for multi-million pound budgets. I have not got any finance background. I have not got a finance.
So how did you make it through the assault course to where you are now? How did you dodge the trap and the thing, and how did you make it through? Not saying that you shouldn't or that you're an imposter. And do you think it would be likely if you join now? Is it more or less likely that you would be able to transition through in the same way? I know that's an impossible question. It's a rubbish question because you can't split test life, but humour me for a minute.
Yeah, no, I think would I make it through? I would like to think I have. I would. Clearly, I would say that because I think there comes with a level of commitment, determination, and passion that I think has always been with me within an organisation. You need to be honest. I think there's always a degree of look and opportunity when you're moving through an organisation, and to a degree, use the old phrase, the stars need to align sometimes to enable opportunities, and when opportunities are there.
But you've also got to increase the surface area that look can stick to, can't you? You've got to be driven enough and open-minded enough to place yourself. People ask me like, why have you been invited here? Why have you been invited there? I just try and make a really big surface area for these lucky things to stick to. And I fail, if you saw the amount of things I go for, it's a very small percentage that actually manifest into something. But you've got to sort of be willing to put yourself out there, I suppose.
It is, and I think kind of linking into that, I think the one thing that is a positive trait for anybody going through, if they're going to work through an organisation, is to not want to be comfortable in your roles, and to be. So I've always been in a role to a point where I've started to get comfortable, and then that makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like being comfortable in a role.
I change roles about every 2 years.
Yeah, and
I don't think that's good though for some people.
I do, and I think that absolutely links into your point about widening your surface area, because it is easy to stay in a role to be comfortable. There's nothing wrong with that, I have to say, because actually you need.
Well, that's the backbone of the organisation. We need those people.
Absolutely.
We need really good 10-year veterans who are experts in whatever, fire protection, in training, and response, in control, whatever.
In every single role you need. But linking into the question where you say, well, would I progress? I think that's part of me.
Was that intentional or was it accidental? Did you get itchy feet, or did you think like, if I'm going to be chief, I need to move soon?
Yeah, to be honest with you, that's the first question I get asked a lot of. Did you always want to be chief? Never entered my head. There's never a thing that I aspired to become the chief officer. What I always did have, though, I always got to a point in virtually in every level of the organisation saying, I need to do something different now. If I say what I'm doing, I'll probably get bored. I need to do something to stimulate myself. I want to find different opportunities. I never had an end goal. And to be honest, when I was offered the chief's role in an interim period, probably nearly 5 years ago, it came at a time where I wasn't expecting it. But linking into your point is there was an opportunity there for me to take with both hands and to see what that was going to be like. But that was probably more one of my most nervous parts of my career.
Did you ever externally express it as like boredom? Like, I'm worried I might get bored, or because I've used those words before and I've fallen into the trap of accidentally saying that someone else that does the same role as me is doing a boring job. Is how I've accidentally ended up wording it. It was, of course, not my intention, because we all just have. I always say people are like plants, and this might be a rubbish analogy, but I'm like, you put one plant in an environment, it will thrive. You put another plant in the same environment, it will die. And I've had certain roles where I've gone, I'm going to go for that. And I do it for a year and I go, oh my God, I hate this, or it's boring. And some people, like my mum was an accountant for 35 years. I couldn't do that. Her brain works in a different way to mine, and she loved it. Whereas my dad ran a building firm for just as long, if not longer. He cannot do admin work, not because he's not academic, but he's very intelligent. Do you know what I mean? It is a different people, different skill sets, isn't it? And I relate to that boredom, but that's very difficult for people who want to do that job for a long time. If you're saying, I couldn't do that, it's boring.
Yeah. And I learned very, very early in my career. And I used that language, and I quite rightly got picked up on it very, very early on in my firefighting career. I remember I had a conversation with my watch manager. I said, you know, I'm bored, and he quite rightly said, well, this isn't a boring job. There are so many things you can do. So don't come into my office and saying you're bored. If you want to do something different, it's on you to do something about that. And that
is true.
was really, really a very early life lesson in regards to a little language. And it kind of links into about I was a very young, naive, full of energy, not
rambunctious, driven, impatient.
But what I had was little situational awareness about all the rest of my colleagues around me, which to fair, just that short conversation, that was one of those times when you go, I think I need to have a little word myself, and put things into perspective. But it did drive me forward to do something about it.
What was some of the others, like stories, if you will, from the early days that shaped your leadership? Like that was a good example of an early manager having potentially difficult, but fairly stern, fairly direct conversation with you, either good or bad, obviously without mentioning names. Is there any, because sometimes I think you learn best from what you don't want. Like if someone says, oh, what sort of leader do you want to be, Pete? I'm like, well, I know what sort of leader I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this and that and the other because I've felt this, that and the other. And I think sometimes your superpowers sit next to your scars. Like you've had a bad interaction and you've gone, oh, I'm not going to do that again, or I'm not going to be treated like that again, or I hated the way I felt when this was done to me. Is there anything that's particularly shaped you, either from the positive or the negative, from your early career?
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. The most learning comes from probably a little bit some of the negative experiences, because I think they do shape your battle scars, and also I think that there's always been some really inspiring leaders I've worked with really early on in my career. Now, bearing in mind, you're talking 30 years ago, so we operated in very different cultural times.
Social, cultural, everything was different.
Absolutely. But the leadership within the fire service was very different as well. It was very autocratic, and there was I think there's two elements. There's a couple of quite short stories. One is when I very newly come on station, my first whole time station. I was the most excited person in the world. I thought I've done a couple of years of on call. I'm now in whole time. I'm at my station where I've grown up in. Do you know, life couldn't be any better. Turned up on my first day as an excited puppy, and my first job was, okay then, lad, go to the shop, go and get my cigars and get some cigarettes, and then come back, and then I'll let you know what other jobs I need you to do for me today while I just sit in the office.
Wicked.
I could not have been more deflated within 30 seconds. I thought, is that what I'm here for? Is that my role? I've done all this training. I've got these years' experience. I want to, and I'm here to fetch and carry some cigarettes and cigars like that, so you can sit in your office. So that stayed with me actually for quite a long time, and I might touch on some things that some key phrases that I always live and die by now. So that was a really a way that I thought, well, I don't want to demotivate somebody on their very, very first day, because that's the most impactful day that they come to work. And then I think there was another a bit of a conversation I had. I'd worked hard in my probation, as everybody does, because it was tough to get through your probation. But when I was going through probation, my leader at the time rode me really hard. It was a tough time. It was a really, really tough time, to the point where I was thinking, actually, are these things really necessary, that the way you're talking and what you may be to do?
Is this in your whole time or you're on call?
This is in my whole time. I passed my probation. On the day that I passed my probation, I got my certificate, rightly proud. My leader at the time just turned around and goes, "You're accepted now. I'll speak to you normally now. You've passed it." I thought, well, I haven't changed. I'm the same person I was yesterday, and I'll be the same person I am doing tomorrow. Why are you now treating me differently because I've got a certificate? it's back in the day. It's kind of, we always use that a little bit of an excuse, if I'm honest with you.
We like to think it's back in the day. I honestly think that still happens on some on-call stations. Because I
Yeah.
think on-call stations, they're by their very nature out in the middle of the sticks sometimes. And you get a little bit of empire building at on-call stations. Now, I did 10 years at on-call and I absolutely loved it. And
Yeah.
I still love it. I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that do it. But it requires remarkable amount of autonomy, trust, self-accountability, because you are a law unto yourself sometimes. I mean, yes, you still operate in the organization. You're upholded to the same values and the rules and the procedures and policies and all that jazz. But you do get this person is the king of that village. They own the local supermarket, they own the local garage, they own the local funeral company, whatever they do. And it's kind of their thing. And on-call management positions are like hen's teeth. Do you know what I mean? They come up every 20 years and someone just stays in them forever. And I worry sometimes because you don't have like another recruit on Green Watch who's also going through it. You might be the only recruit at that on-call station 25 miles away from anywhere, and you see the rest of the service every 6 months when you go for your next whatever. And I'm like, I know on-call's a passion of yours, not because of your own background, but obviously 60% of the UK fire service, is it, or something like that, is on-call? It's something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the impossible challenge that we're all facing at the minute. I know I'm dragging you a bit down a segue of on-call at the minute, but it's remarkably difficult and essential. That's the thing with the Eisenhower matrix, isn't it? This is both urgent and important, and no one seems to be cracking that nugget very well at the moment, whether it's finance, whether it's job fulfillment, whether it's whatever. What are your reflections from, why did you even join on-call?
So, I mean, it's, there's a lot in there. So on-call, it's a really, I think it's the most interesting dynamic within the fire sector at this moment in time, because I think they are, by definition of how we employ them and where they're from, they are for ourselves some of our greatest assets in regards to, but also it does come with some of our greatest challenges in regards to how we can sustain our on-call, how we can ensure that they get the job fulfillment. So I think something that I never want to lose sight on is, and this is the uniqueness, and I do say it's a uniqueness for on-call, is where else do you get people that are going to live in their communities, that are work in their communities and serve their communities? They are invested in their communities because it is theirs, and that kind of links into your point, Big, which is absolutely right, that they are the community, because that's where everyone's. So, and that is, for me, is something really powerful, because they'll have intrinsic knowledge about where their people are. They'll know the people that they're serving. But to their credit, they are going to some of their friends and families who are having the worst day ever, and that connection there is it is invaluable. But you're absolutely right. The restrictions by the nature of how we employ on-call is at conflict with that, to be honest with you. So, and
the irony of those isolated communities is the people that can afford to live there have usually got a higher socioeconomic level, and they probably don't work in that community. Maybe if they might be commuting from a larger city or whatever, and you don't get paid very much for on-call. So unless you're remarkably passionate, there is not a lot of incentive if you're looking at it as a job. And the thing is, it advertises itself as a job, but it's not really a job. It's a bit like, it's like adult clubs or guides or scouts. It's a fun thing you do every Wednesday. It's really cool. It's problem solving. It has a purpose, but you ain't doing it for the money.
No, because we don't pay enough. Let's be absolutely clear and upfront about that. It is, and I think there's real conversations that we need to have. Is we are tinkering around the edges. It's really welcome that there's been a salary review of the on-call, but fundamentally we are still operating in a mindset that it is still broadly based on percentages of whole-time salary. The bottom line is, it is a different way of employing people. So it needs to have a completely different salary and pay structure to reflect that. Of course, the biggest challenge the only way that's going to improve is by more investment. And we can't ignore that fact. It needs heavily investing in on-call because the return on investment is absolutely phenomenal for what they provide. So it does need that widespread investment to ensure that we pay people for the appropriate amount of service they give us, rather than just the blanket approach of percentages and here and there, because that's the start, it's progress, but it isn't the final answer. And we need to diversify how we employ them. We need to diversify the skills that we offer our on-call. All those things for me link into that job satisfaction, that value, that worth that they have. Because the danger being is, yes, calls are increasing, but not in a rate that's giving them a return on the amount of commitment they have by not going out of their local town or village, by having to cancel weekends.
It's not reflective of the disruption that it causes their personal life, because when you join the on-call or retained or whatever people still want to call it, it's not just you joining, it's your whole family. For me, with my kids back then, it was a bit like supervised visits, because whenever I was on call, I had to be around near my mum and dad. If my missus was at work, we couldn't go here, we couldn't go to the cinema that was 20 miles away. I couldn't take them shopping on my own. It was a bit weird. When I think back, it was just obvious then. It was like, yeah, I don't mind doing it. But then unless you know the person at the checkout, I can't just dump her with my 6-year-old. I've got to have an answer for that.
Absolutely. Well, again, on the play, you're absolutely right. On reflection, every pass out we have for our on-call, every quarter, we have them every quarter. We have a healthy amount of numbers still coming in. And it almost feels like people are thinking I'm being a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I'm being deadly serious. I spend the time thanking the families because you've signed up for the fire service. Because unfortunately, there will be a disruption to your life. And so your commitment is absolutely invaluable, because we can't do that without your support. All that's great recognition, but is it the right model to be sustainable? Not really, no. So we do need...
I also think you'd get the most out of your on-call as well. Like we've said before, and I want to bash on this point for too long, but unions and everybody else exempt for a minute, they're more likely to want to do more things for their local community, i.e., other kinds of responding, co-responding, whatever it might be, the needs of their community, which will be unique depending on the community. If it's agricultural, if it's whatever based, more schools, less schools, elderly demographic, whatever, they're more likely to do it. And again, I know that's the role map thing and the unions thing and all that sort of jazz, but there is a pathway. There is a pathway you can see through to how we could make this job more financially rewarding, because it adds more to the community, not just because we go pay them more because we should pay them more, which we should. But if we're going to pay them more and there's things these people want to do, they're aware of the challenges of the local community and they want to help, and they're skilled and they're accredited and they're qualified and they're GDPR'd. Do you know what I mean? It's a tremendous underutilization of very skilled, passionate people, I think. It is beyond a privilege to be able to bring the Firefighters podcast to you, and we are so grateful for every single person that supports, listens, shares, and follows our journey. But here's the honest truth. It takes a colossal amount of time and work to keep the podcast going. And to help us keep doing it, create more, reach more guests internationally, and make the podcast sustainable, we're asking for you to help. And to do this, we've set up a Patreon page. Now, by joining this, you'll not only support the future of the podcast, but also gain access to exclusive benefits. Now, if you've ever wanted to meet a member of the podcast, buy us a beer, buy us a coffee, and you think anything you've ever listened to on the podcast has been worth £3, that's basically what we're asking you for. By joining our Patreon community, you will get access to every single full episode archive we have ever made. Now, hundreds and hundreds of key documents that we've got in there on fire behavior, firefighter health, cancer risks, incident debriefs, and so much more. A growing collection of valuable resources to help you learn and grow. Your support in whatever way, dropping it in the WhatsApp group, sharing it on the local newsletter, whatever it is, it's incredibly valuable, and we really do support it. And we need it to make it a long-lasting resource, that legacy resource we always talk about for first responders, firefighters, and everybody everywhere who's ever been interested in joining the fire service. Now, if you're already supporting something, as many people do, it's totally cool. You can still access the podcast for free, and you'll always be able to access all the new episodes for free. But we're asking for your help to make this sustainable. And we want to keep growing, we want to keep sharing the insights, and we want to keep showcasing the incredible work happening in our community and our sector. So if you feel like you want to join the Patreon crew and help us make this possible, head to patreon.com/TFFPC or check the link in any episode podcast notes.
Yeah, and we've got lived experiences now. Yeah, so you touched on it. Co-responding is absolutely our on-call. We got 26 out of our 38 stations are doing co-responding. We've been doing it for many, many years, 25 years plus. We brought it in when there was an absolute conflict in regards to whether we should be doing co-responding or not. The one thing that we've always seen through and always been absolutely clear on is our firefighters on our on-call as well, not just on-call, but they want to be there to save lives in their communities. They want to add value and support our communities. Co-responding by absolutely no argument saves lives. We've saved more lives through co-responding than we have done in in-house fires. And we've only been able to do that is by the commitment of our on-call wanting to take on those roles. And it absolutely does help retention. It gives them a new skill set. It gives them an opportunity to put in their skills into practice. We get letters on a monthly basis from members of the public saying, "Thank you, you've saved our life. You've made a real difference." So, on the absence at the moment where we're not able to financially remunerate them as much as I would ever want them to, there's a lot to be said. Be able to get in that feedback from the communities that one day you're doing whatever you're doing in the garden and that alerter goes off, and then 10 minutes later you brought somebody back from life, and we can only do that when we've got on-call stations located in rural areas that we know struggle for ambulance services to get there. If Mrs. X has had a heart attack, they're not going to care whether it's somebody coming dressed in a red uniform or a green uniform or a blue uniform. They need that life-saving intervention. Our on-call are brilliant at doing that.
And it's sat there on the truck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sat there waiting.
Yeah.
There's two directions I want to go in, but I want to go a little bit deeper on that because of how much you've spoken about, want to do this, I want to do that. How, because I'm sure a lot of senior leaders will be able to relate to it, saying no to great ideas, saying no to things you personally would like to say yes to. How do you manage to do that on a regular basis and still remain empathetic, still remain sincerely interested, still sleep at night? Not that you shouldn't, not that we're not the Nazis here or whatever. We're not condemning horrible things, but we're saying no to a lot of things we want to say yes to because of things outside of our sphere of control. Yeah. But me, at a watch manager, watch commander level, can go, well, senior leadership team, what are you going to do? At your level, it's harder to go, well, I suppose it's my decision, but I have to say no. Because you are legally held to account in financial blah, blah, blahs and, combined fire authorities and local councils and governments. But ultimately, the book does stop with you, and you are just a manifestation of senior leadership team in this conversation. But how do you manage to say no to good stuff all the time and still remain optimistic?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm a one-word answer, and then I'm going to explain really. First of all, it's communication. I think absolutely communication is the most underrated element of leadership. When I mean underrated, that's the area where I would like to see far more growth and understanding of the value of communication. I think the second point is because I don't think we say no as much as people perceive we say no in regard to the decisions coming through. And I think for me, it's really important to try and foster the culture that actually the decision-making process, I'm almost should, to a degree, be the last person to be involved in that. And we need to foster an ongoing culture within all organisations that decision-makings should be made at the lowest level, to ensure that, because that helps us develop confidence in decision-making, confidence in regard to taking autonomy, ownership and responsibility of the impact of those decisions, you can only do that by experiencing that. And if everything keeps coming up to the senior leadership team to make those decisions, we're not enabling people to have those experiences and exposure. So, how do I keep positive in regards to if we are having to say no? Because you're right, we all know we're coming into a period where we're going to have financial challenges. That's the reality of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the communication is what I've found is people will either accept or not accept whether you're saying no, more on the base of good rationale and understanding rather than the actual decision. And that's a sense check for me as well. If I get in a position where I'm just saying no because, I just don't think it's the right thing to do, or I've got a preference to doing something else, that's not giving me my own assurance that I'm actually making a decision on sound basis. But if I can articulate, well, unfortunately on this occasion, we're not able to do it because of this issue, this pressure. I think we need to put our priority resources in this area because that's going to benefit us in this, and explain all that through. It's a sound rationale, because people are not naive to think that actually we're going to be able to do everything for everyone and say yes to everybody. What people should expect is really clear rationale and understanding of why we've made decisions and the directions we're going on. If we don't do that, then I think we'll have a struggle of a culture of decision making within all of the.
I think we already are. I think we spend a lot of our time talking about the what and the how, but the why seems to have, not maliciously or intentionally, the why will have been debated and vacillated about in a closed doors somewhere, not through Secret Squirrel Club, just because it might be a delicate subject. But I think if you need to spend a lot of your time talking about the whys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's where, if they understand a clear why, they'll achieve any how and what. I forget, it might have been a Margaret Thatcher thing. I can't remember if she said something like that. But when you've seen it done badly, either in your own organization or by yourself or somewhere else, I'm agreeing with you. I don't think we spend I think we should do public speaking courses, because just like from base level, because recruits, one of the things will be, right, do a community safety talk on this. Crew managers, watch managers, they will deliver to stations, groups of people, and then we start doing media training around middle management sometimes in some places, not everywhere, but that's usually more the block bridge agenda, don't commit political suicide, and embarrass us on TV sort of lens that it's seen through. But I was told ages ago, the limits of your language are the limits of your world. And that's probably why I lent into this podcasting thing. Not that I'm particularly articulate, but I enjoy trying to expand my language, not to an extent that it seems like you're lording it over people. But communication, like you said, whether it's written form, spoken, it's pregnant with meaning, intention, accidental elbows that you can hit people with. What do you think we should be doing with communication? When you've seen it done well, do you have a framework? Do you have something that you work off to help you sense check your communication?
Yeah, so I think you've touched on a really important point, and I think what I would add to that, it needs to be relatable communication, and I think that there is there's an art to recognise before you do any communication is to truly understand the audience that you're speaking to. With my position, I have engagement, I have communications either with elected members, with politicians, with senior leaders, with my stakeholders, and just as often I will have in communications with on-call staff, with an advocate that started last week, for example. None of those are less or more important than anybody else at all, but I need to switch on and to turn on how they're going to hear me in the most effective way. So I think that there is an absolute element in regards to understanding your audience, knowing your audience, to have relatable communications. There's no point in me going into in-depth technical financial details and political legislation if I'm talking to somebody about whether we're going to buy uniform A or uniform B. It needs to be something that they can relate and connect to. And I think that's probably the word I'd like to use more. It's about that connection. The communication needs to be a connection because that builds trust, that gives credibility. But for me, the onus would be on for me to understand how the person's going to receive it, rather than, which I think we've been for too long, the expectation of, well, you should just understand what we're saying.
That comes that corporate speak accidentally comes across with a lot of condescension, doesn't it? And we love our acronyms and mnemonics, and we love we have this, we crave some sort of complexity to things. I don't know why. I think people think it makes them sound more intelligent, it justifies their role in some way, but often it just makes them unrelatable.
Yeah, and I think that's a real. It's not a real danger. That's a reality. That is a problem, and I think we need to move away from the fact that big words make you sound intelligent, and it makes it sound as if you got credibility.
Buzzword bingo in the 10 o'clock meeting. What's going on?
Absolute nonsense. The other element of it is, for me, I think we need to recognise so many different platforms and types of communication that we need to utilise.
I communicated. I sent an email to the whole service.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one reads that rubbish. All right, Mark.
Absolutely.
Just do something else.
And also, and generally a rule of thumb, which I work for is actually, if there's a key message, unless I've said it 5 times, people won't register because there is so much communication, there is so much engagement for all the right reasons. But I can't be confident and say, your analogy is great. Well, I sent out an email on the 31st of April. Why haven't you all got that? No, we need to keep repeating the information, and that's not because we're wanting to think that people don't understand it. It's just recognising people have got a lot of information being thrown at them.
And it's all a priority.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything's a priority.
Yeah. Of course.
I often, I have a little thing at the bottom of my emails, and I don't think it's held too much, but I always say, like, I only respond at certain times, or if I'd say I set up a new rule. Someone else actually told me this on my emails recently. I thought it was a great hack. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. You set a rule in your thing. If I'm copied into an email, it goes into a separate box. I don't know if you've done this before. It might be obvious to everybody else. Someone only told me recently. And I've got that as a saved as a check when I'm bored or whatever. I never check it. If it's sent directly to me, then I'll have a look at it. But if someone, I bump into them at headquarters and they go, hey, we haven't got back to you, copied into that email. Right, he didn't send it to me. He just copied me in. And we have this thing of copying everybody in. I need a paper trail, Mark. Need a paper trail. Otherwise it didn't happen if it wasn't on an email thread. And I think, no. And secondly, if it's that important, you'll ring me. Now, I get I'm not very important in doing whatever I'm doing, and you probably get a lot more volume. But then again, you have a buffer as well. Like you have a person, don't you? You have, I don't know what the correct term, I don't want to misterm them, like admin assistant, or it's not a secretary anymore, do we? We don't call
management support officer. We have
management support officer. You have them. Talk to me about that kind of Eisenhower matrix. How do you know what is things that you need to do, that you should do? Because it's not that things are more or less important, but we said about this before we came on. The just sheer volume of stuff, and it's something I struggle with. My fault, all self-created. Trying to wear 2 hats, working outside of work at the night, burning the midnight oil. Feel like I let everybody down because I don't get back to them, and it takes months to reply to a WhatsApp or anything like that. How do you filter through what needs to be done in person, what can be done by somebody else? And I do want to come back to communication in a minute, because I realize we've only spoken about the one way. I want to ask you about good listeners in a minute and what good listening looks like. Choose whichever direction you want. I appreciate my ADHD has just asked you 17 questions again.
So,
I'm terrible. I'm horrific. I'd hate to be interviewed by me. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents, and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together.
Yeah, so it's again, I'm aware I have my own frailties in regards to particularly that area. So actually, I've got an amazing MSO, and she absolutely put things in order in my inbox and does a fantastic job of putting things in whichever week things are coming through.
Do you think they get paid enough? Because I think that's a really good skill set, But I don't know how we advertise and find those people.
Yeah, no,
they're amazing.
They are.
I need one.
Yeah,
I don't think I can afford it.
When you actually get a great MSO or whatever they could have, they are absolutely invaluable. But my frailty is that I still like to see everything that's in there.
I know, yeah.
And that isn't, and that's not necessarily a control thing. It's just I'm just always curious about what's coming in, and a little bit is if, and I know it's a false view, but I'm thinking, well, if somebody's taking the time to email me,
feels disrespectful, doesn't it?
Yeah, and so that's a little bit of my hang-up. Now, interesting, you mentioned about what goes on the bottom of emails, and I think there's another interesting dynamic about being a 24/7 service, 24/7 culture. So I have at the bottom of my emails is very, very clear. I may be sending this out of hours. But again, please don't feel free to respond. Only respond when it's convenient for you, because I think what I've recognised is actually what's fine. We're not 9 to 5 anymore. No way near are we ever 9 to 5. And actually, what might be convenient for somebody to do their admin at 7 o'clock at night may not be convenient for somebody who only wants to do some things between, 9 o'clock in the morning. So we do need to find a way that we haven't got this implied pressure that you send something, you need to reply. For me, so that's for me is one of the communication engagement element of it. We absolutely need to not put implied pressure on people, which is a challenge. So
have you seen France's right to disconnect law as a random aside?
Sorry, no, I haven't, no.
I know, but it is relevant. I promise it's an interruption. Yeah, but they have this law that if your company has like 50 or more employees, to stop burnout and work-life balance and all that sort of stuff, they have like email blackout hours where it's no emails after 7 p.m. And I imagine their emergency services are exempt from this. But you're right, because it's not just an emergency services thing. Like everything is 24 hours. You expect there to be a supermarket open all the time. Society is no longer 9 to 5, is it?
No.
And I know that random aside, but like I think it got worse in COVID, didn't it? Things just bled. They bled here, there, everywhere. I'll jump on at 9 p.m. I'll da. And because it's on our phones and we work from home and also the fire services and all emergency services are a black hole. You can't fill them up. Certainly in your role, but everyone's role really to an extent, especially if you're whole time and on call, those people, and I was one of them, it will just swallow you.
Yeah. So, and you're absolutely right. And there's a couple of things which I'm quite passionate about, and I do on every occasion. So linking into that. So I always find when people come to see me, if they're just passing by and my door's open, generally, one of the first comments they say, when goes, really, sorry to bother you, Mark, because I know you're really busy. My first comment goes, I'm no busier than what you are. We're all busy. Don't, just because you think, just because it's the chief officer, that I'm going to be any more busy than you. I absolutely know you are busy. So if you took the time to come and see me, I'll put my laptop down, let's have a conversation.
But the effect of your busyness might have a greater amplification, I think, is our interpretation, isn't it? It's like if I make a mistake, a few people will care. If you make a mistake, it might be really bad. We might lose £5 million. You know what I mean? But I get that's the responsibility.
Yeah, it comes.
But I think that's always the unspoken thing that we all assume, and it is fair.
It is fair, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be. The person who's coming into me is going to be any less busy than me. They will have 100 things that they're probably having to do on that day as well. The second element, which is a really useful, I think it's a useful challenge that we should be having with each other. So every now and then, clearly I'll say, do you know what, let's get all the teams together, wider teams or groups of people, do you know, we're just going to have an away day. We'll just go somewhere and we'll just laptops down. We need to discuss things. We need to connect with people. We need to... And more often it goes, well, I can't clear my diary. So sometimes I get to the point it goes, I'll tell you what, you can just clear your diary. Not because I'm just telling you to, but what I want you to do is in 12 months' time, come back to me and tell me what has stopped, what have you not been able to deliver because you took that one day out of the office. Nothing stops. You still manage to do it. But what you get is a time to carve out time for yourselves, because we don't do that enough because we're too reliant on communicating through emails or through reports. I think your point's really, really valid. I think COVID we're having a significant hangover from the COVID days in regards to how the new way of the world is stuff. And I firmly believe we need to be spending more time and commitment to bringing us back more face to face. We do need to start reconnecting with everybody in all our organisations more, because the impact of that is quite impressive when you see people reconnecting as teams, as to carve out time. It's almost like a force multiplier.
Oh, 100%.
Activity increases such significantly, but we need to be quite. My humble opinion is, I think we need to be quite strong in regards to go. No, we will carve out the time. We will spend time together. We will be face to face. We'll get to know each other again. We need to keep building those relationships because we're in this all together.
Someone said to me, like, we're too impatient to be intelligent. We're too busy to care. And also, they said, when I was a business coach I worked with ages ago, and they said, we're going to carve out 2 hours at the beginning of each week to talk about your priorities and blah, 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 blah. And I said, I haven't got 2 hours. Jesus Christ, man, I haven't got 2 hours. And they're like, if you haven't got 2 hours to decide on your priorities, or you haven't got an hour to decide on your priorities, you probably need a day. Yeah. Like someone said, if you haven't got 5 minutes a day to meditate, you probably need an hour.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because this is... What's the end result of this? If we extrapolate this down a year, what's going to change? If nothing changes, nothing changes. And we feel that chronic drip of cortisol and stress, and you're waking up with that low-level anxiety that you're slowly falling behind in life. And as much as people say, Pete, you'll die with unread emails, don't worry about it. And you're like, yeah, I know. But Mark emailed me 2 months ago and I feel really bad. And now his assistant, his person, has emailed me twice as well. And it's really bad. And you're like, you know what I mean?
And I think as much as that is an organisational issue, but also I think it's an individual and society position absolutely as well. And I think there's probably a 50-50 balance, that a lot of it is self-imposed in regards to that desire. But also the way we are structured within organisations, and it's organisationally imposed as well. So unless we can step into that space and have a counter view and a counter challenge, as an example, I'm saying, you just do not do your meetings today. Let's all get together. Unless you physically challenge that, you need to break the cycle, is kind of what I'm saying. Is otherwise,
that's a great shout, and that's probably a good life analogy for many things.
Doing it. Yeah.
I want to change gears because I could keep talking about that for ages. But spoken about on call, fire cadets was on our list because I think this is one of the most poorly advertised success stories of the fire and rescue service. And like my missus, she saw a bunch of fire cadets at the recent British Firefighter Challenge. She was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I was like, how do you not know it's a thing? We've been together for a while now. How have I not spoken about it? Or how have we not discussed it? I've ran cadet sessions. Do you know what I mean? And people know about army cadets. Some people know about police cadets. I don't know if the NHS actually have anything similar to it, but fire cadets is a wonderful way for people of different ages to engage the wealth of opportunities they get exposed to. But people know about Duke of Edinburgh. They don't really know about fire cadets. Like, assume nothing of the listener and go right down to base level unfamiliarity. What is it? Why should anybody care? And why do we still do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, as soon as you mention fire cadets, I smile. I genuinely think it's one of my proudest associations. So I've been the lead at the UK NFCC Fire Cadet lead. So I've had the amazing privilege of meeting cadets all over the country. So what are they? They are a group of fantastic young people from the ages of 13 and 17. We run fire cadet units in services, and they have a dedicated training program that is consistent across the UK, and they have fire kit, they have all the equipment. It's run by volunteer instructors that look after them once a week, a bit like a drill night, and they put them through their paces. They teach them all the base level skills of firefighting that you would normally expect on a fire station.
But people think they don't touch kit. They do. They have ladders, they have PA sets, they do knots and lines, they do hose rolling, pumping, they do genuinely squirt water. A lot of them have their own fire engines that they're given to them, and obviously with supervised trained staff so they don't hurt themselves and all that jazz. But they actually do the thing. It's not like, they just mop floors and like draw on paper and talk about the fire service. No, they do the thing.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And they learn skills. They learn valuable community skills. They get an opportunity to get NVQ level 2 qualifications through the program. Our instructors also get the NVQ qualifications as well, so we support them through in regards to that as well. But if I'm honest, what they get is, and I think this is something that we sometimes shy away from. The fact is, we're quite hard on ourselves within the fire sector. We do look at ourselves sometimes through a negative lens, and understandably, because we've gone through some challenging times. But there is no shadow of a doubt we are still one of the most positive role modelling organisations.
I think we're the best kept secret, the emergency services, honestly. And of course I would say that running a podcast about it. But police have got the police interceptors, NHS have got 24 hours in A&E and various things. Fire service did one a long time ago. We had the London's burning and things like that. I think we're just petrified of it. A few organisations have done a little bits, but I just think we're not marketing ourselves very well. And even with the cadet stuff, we're the media and ourselves, we're just a punching bag where you just I don't know why we do it to ourselves. It's horrible.
And you're right, and I don't. But what the fire cadets are, these young people, they absolutely are passionate and love being associated with the fire service. But without a shadow of a doubt, we've got over 2,500 of them across the UK. Pretty much all services have a unit of one form of description or not. They come together on annual events. They come together on training events. They genuinely do. They link into the fire service as their role models. They look up to our firefighters and all the rest of our fire service staff as people they want to be. So it comes with quite a level of responsibility for us as fire leaders to ensure that we nurture that, to ensure we get the most out of that, because these are often young people that without a positive role model, they could go in different directions.
Absolutely.
And I've got several examples where I've had head teachers coming to me saying, we have seen such a transformation in some of our young people just in the space of a few months because of their involvement of cadets. We've seen parents of the people of these cadets being actively involved in school activities where they wouldn't have because of their enthusiasm of being within the fire service. So that brand and that role model is something we need to celebrate more. We need to I
think it's a great thing for local councils and communities to leverage, because they call it, what is it called? It's called like threshold capability or something like that. Like some people have a negative association to the police. Unfortunate, but I get it. Maybe their parent was arrested once, maybe whatever reason. They're there to spoil somebody's fun, and some people don't like them. I get that to an extent. Most people are glad to see the fire service. Unless you come in to put their bonfire out, but even then it's probably because it's out of control. You know what I mean? You're usually glad when we show up. Some fire service, some first responders get attacked. Mm-hmm. The ambulance staff seem to get attacked a lot, which is really unfortunate. But we get over the threshold quite well. And I think, like you say, younger individuals who are having a challenging time with life or school or their own personal life, family experience, Fire service is a great way, and again, when we do, we are able to identify some of the challenges that individual might be facing. We have great signposting mechanisms that are there to support them, and I just don't think we capitalize on it anywhere near enough. And would I be wrong in saying, because I don't want to misstep here, it is a great way for people to prepare for a future in the fire service if they should choose to do so. We're not saying it's a direct thing and you'll get the tap on the shoulder and the wink wink and you'll get through the door, no questions asked. But we're not stupid. You're obviously invested in this. You've shown many years of commitment already. You get the values and the principles and blah, blah, blah. You still have to do training school and all that jazz. You won't go straight onto a station. But for young people that may be aspiring to be in the fire service, I think it's a great stepping stone.
Yeah. So I've got a real clear personal ambition for the fire cadets. I think that career pathway is I would love for us to get to a position, and we are going to be working hard to get a consistent agreement on regards to having pathways into the fire service. Now, when I'm saying into the fire service, does it have to be operationally focused role? No, it's being part of the fire service, because a lot of our young people have got so many skills. They've pretty much got the attributes that we've been wanting for coming into the fire service. So what will that look like? Work to be done, absolutely, in regards to that. But if we've got fire cadets that have done certain levels of training, gained certain amount of qualifications, and they've got those qualities and attributes, why wouldn't we be looking at them favourably within a recruitment process? My analogy that I get into, so many services, we sign up to Armed Forces covenants. When part of that, whether you're bronze, silver or gold award, is part of that. Well, actually, if you've got military service, there are in some areas where, well, actually, you can go straight to interview, because actually
I literally spoke to a recruitment person about this the other day, and I was like, why don't we do it? And they're like, well, absolutely. That's a little bit elitist and it's, it's preferential treatment. And I'm like, hang on a minute. The problem with the armed forces is not problem, but like it's immersive and it's very hard for your life. You might have to live on the base and it can make it difficult if you want to then start a family, but you want to still be part of a service role. This person's conditioned. They've probably got great values. They're a very capable individual. They've done 5, 6, 7 years in the armed forces and they want different. So rather than go and work at Sainsbury's or wherever, fire service would snap their hand off. They'd be amazing. But a lot of places, and I apologise for interrupting, but like a lot of places, it's not that direct link, and they should be.
And you're right, because that's not even consistent across the UK as well. And for reasons of which services absolutely should have autonomy on how they want to recruit people, absolutely. But the ethos of it is we are rightly, for example, as you articulated, happy to recognise the skills that comes with military personnel that could rightly so come through. And like I say, it's not a free ticket. They still need to go through various selection processes, but it does count for something. On the other hand, we've got our fire cadets who we've probably been working with for 2 or 3 years. We know them extremely well. We know what they're capable of. They're demonstrating on a week-by-week basis. At this moment in time, it counts for little, except for how can they demonstrate that through a recruitment process. I genuinely feel that's something for us to, that's a challenge.
It's a bit of a slap in the face, isn't it? If you get to 16, 17 and you're like, so excited, I might get a chance to work alongside Jess or Sarah or Mark or Dave or whoever who's been training me. But then I'm in the same bucket with everybody else. They don't even care. They just decided to be a firefighter yesterday. I've been working hard at this for 3.5 years. And it's like you're saying you don't even know me.
And what we would get from that within the sector, we'd get a greater range of diversity than we probably get through normal recruitment anyway, because that's just the diverse nature of our fire cadets. We have, to a degree, tried and tested people that we know well. Absolutely, there's a whole lot of checks and balances and caveats that we need to put in place. But the principle of it, even just the principle of it, is something that we need to look at and consider, because they are the future. They're the ones that are going to be leading fire services in various areas, in various levels for the future.
Have we crossed the bridge with colleges? Because I know a lot of colleges run public service courses, don't they?
Yeah.
Is there an interconnectedness there? Because it would seem an obvious link, but I don't
Yeah.
know how that works.
Yeah, so there is an absolute link in regards to that, and it is very much of a localised approach.
MSA are supporting us on today's podcast, and I chose to partner with them because I've been wearing this stuff for nearly 20 years, and they are the global leader in development, manufacture, and supply of incredible, safe products that really protect people, not just our communities out there, but also first responders, most importantly, all over the world. Get yourself over to MSA and have a look at it. The high-performance protective clothing for emergency services responders. They also partner with us on the UK Pink Firefighters. That's because we love them. The helmets with the reflective visor, the F1XF, absolutely epic helmet. And not forgetting how they improve firefighter safety through their connectivity in the connected firefighter platform. MSA are always pushing the envelope, and it's a real privilege to be able to continue to grow our partnership together. So whether it's your PPE, your bunker gear, your helmets, your SCBA, your thermal imaging, your Luna, or your portable gas detection, both of us know that this equipment needs to work. It needs to be high quality, reliable, and dependable in the moment. And that's why I use MSA, because they know what's at stake.
So there are a lot of colleges that do uniform service courses that actually could almost be a bridge. I think there's the other really interesting concept about apprenticeships, which I think is a really valuable tool in a space, and particularly as...
And also it's great for organisations because you get to draw down the funding.
You do, and especially as what we know that the recent announcements that level 7 apprenticeships at degree level, the funding is going to be capped up to age 25. So really focusing on that for young people, which again is...
Up to age 25, that's a bit harsh. Is that because we think we won't get a return on investment from a government perspective? So the idea of it is big companies pay a levy for people that don't know anything about it, and I'll get this wrong, so please correct me when I get it wrong. Massive companies pay a levy. I forget over how many employees it is. You probably know. You have to pay into a levy. And then if you have a recognised skill set, like a thatcher or a builder or an accountant or a teacher or whatever, and there's a massive list of these, you can find them on the website.
Yeah.
There's an amount that sits next to it. So as a firefighter, I think it's like £18,000, isn't it?
About that,
£18,000. We'll give you... Lincolnshire as an example, you agree to do 20 people and they're going to be trained to this standard, which is agreed nationally. We'll give you 18k and it might cost you, what does it cost you? 25, 30 to train somebody? Something like that? I don't know.
About that, yeah.
About that. So it's good. You do it. You get that money back. You draw it down from the government. But you couldn't do that then. If I joined and I was 40, you couldn't get the thing.
No, and that's the direction.
That's a bit ageist, isn't it? But I get they're like the return on investment for the UK economy. We're only going to get 10 years out of this person.
Yeah,
that's not very fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's another lens to look through it as well, and I think there's also a bit of the lens about the cost of a degree is absolutely eye-watering now for young people to go through.
Yeah.
So
signing up for debt. For life.
Yes, absolutely. So if there is an opportunity to have that opportunity for on-the-job learning and still get a degree for our young people, I think that's a really, for me personally, I think that's a positive lens to go through, because I think there's a whole sway of young people that have probably got an awful lot of potential and ability that may not be able to get the exposure of getting degrees for one reason or another.
I haven't got one. Have you?
Do you know what? And I haven't. And I think I am definitely in the minority of senior leaders within the fire sector that I haven't got a degree.
Well, again, it's been a controversial topic in the last 5 years. We won't go into detail, but the whole MBA and degree thing and whatever. Do you think that's a different question? We'll go there in a minute. But I wonder if you think that's necessary for senior leaders. But carry on the thought.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the decision about the age of 25 cap. That's a decision that I don't know enough in regards to know the rationale. But from the lens I'm looking through is I don't see that as a particularly negative in regards to when we're talking about the development of young people, which is the lens I'm looking through things.
Yeah.
So I think there is definitely something for us to explore. We've got all the ingredients. If you think about it this way, we've got fire cadets that we've worked with for many, many years. So we've got talent and attributes that we absolutely know. We should have a pathway to enable them to show their potential to see if they can get into the fire service. linking in regards to apprenticeships and apprenticeship degrees, we're also giving them an opportunity to advance their academia status and giving them development. All those ingredients means that we've got a really good starting point when people are entering into an organisation, as much as we have got a development pathway when they're already partway through the career.
I think it's great for inspiring young people and for training young people. I think 25 is a bit too young to write people off. Not saying we're writing them off, but what I'm saying is I'm 36 and I still don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And I think 25, most people probably don't know what they're going to do with their life either. So if they come into it after that, another thing I'd add is, so you need a degree to get into the police. You need a degree to get into the ambulance service. You don't need a degree to get into fire. But if I was like you and like me, so I didn't do the apprenticeship, I didn't get a sign-off thing. I've got instructor qualifications and things. I've not really got anything useful outside of this outside of the fire service. So if I did on call for 5 years now, and then I was lucky enough to get into whole time, the apprenticeship wouldn't take me on because I've probably got too much experience, isn't there? Because you have to go through an assessment to see if we can justify getting money for you. But I might join with 10 other people. They all go on the apprenticeship. They get a level 3 qualification. I don't. I do 10 years, come out of the fire service, and I've got nothing to show for it. I think that's the thing with the fire service. I mean, I know we do NEBOShes and different levels now. You get your FP courses and you get your whatever. Some people, we know they're useful people, but they might not be very employable in terms of what qualifications can you show us from your 20 years in the fire service or your 30 years in the fire service.
So I think it's an interesting debate that we need to have in regards to it, because I think we are clearly an outsider within the emergency service or fire sector in regards to expectations, qualifications, etc.
How we recognise the knowledge that's within our people.
Yeah. So
because even qualifications, they're not the what's it ones, IFEs. They're not mandated a lot of places now.
No. So I think there's definitely two sides to it. So I suppose linking back into the level 7 degree, it doesn't mean that people can't access a level 7 degree apprenticeships. Organisations can still provide it. There's just that they won't get the levy for it. So it's
well, that means I can't offer it to everyone, can I, Mark?
No, true. But if we reflect back on organisations, many organisations have provided MBA degree courses before apprenticeships was even a thing. So,
I know.
So there is an ability there.
The guy that does the firefit thing, I had a chat with him the other day, and he said he did an MBA like 20 years ago in the fire service. Yeah. And so I was like, how did you get away with that?
Well, it's nothing new, and to be honest with you, I think it was more prevalent probably 15, 20 years ago than it is now.
We had more money available. We were a bit more flexible, though,
possibly,
weren't we?
Yeah. So, but in regards, I think there's a real conversation that we need to have within the fire sector. First and foremost, in regards to standardising approach about qualifications within the sector, I think we need to have the conversation. We need to recognise the fire service clearly is a very professional organisation.
Profession, yeah.
Professional profession, absolutely. And it comes with a degree of academia that comes with it. We're getting probably more complex issues that we need to deal with. I use one area, particularly in regards to the world of fire protection, the knowledge and the skills that need to understand the legislation, the building constructions, is quite significant. So it isn't unreasonable for us to have a level of academia qualifications to that. So I think there is something that we need to ensure that what is the base level standard. Now, am I saying the base level standard is degree? Personally, no, it isn't. I don't think it is. I think that we do need to have a consistent approach within the fire sector, much like the police do, much like the ambulance do, in regards to that, because that shows potential. It shows potential that people have that ability to learn, that ability to drive forward. Then we need to know how we want to build on that for existing staff as well. that are renowned.
And if we mandate it or if we offer it, because just to go into that niche for a split second, because it might be relatable to some people, there's a lot of organizations with the post-Grenfell stuff and the fire protection work where they got a lot of operational staff to go through fire protection accreditations, which some people find remarkably difficult from an academic perspective, because that's not why they joined the job. Now, there's definitely a massive argument for how beneficial it would be for them to have that awareness, but awareness and mandating they undergo a qualification, these people might be in their mid to late 40s, have not been in school or in a classroom academic environment for 20 years. And some of them, it's causing a remarkable amount of, and I know this from first-hand account, a remarkable amount of stress and feeling of incompetency when they're not. They're very capable people who have been great at running a team and a watch and whatever for a very long time. But not everyone. My missus said this to me a while ago, because I say to people, I'm not really very intelligent. And she corrects me because she's like, you mean you're not academic? Because my sister's a teacher and so is my missus, and they're both very academic. And I think that means they're both very intelligent. But intelligence, this might be a good context or segue into leadership or another conversation for us, but intelligence and academia are different things, aren't they? Because I think people in the fire service are very intelligent. They're great problem solvers, the way they view challenges through a different lens, but that doesn't make them academic. And I think sometimes we do a quick word switch there, or we give people roles or tasks that require skill sets that they might not have, but that's not because they're stupid or incompetent.
No, absolutely. And I really do agree that there is very, very different between intelligence and academia. But I do believe we do need to have a base level. We need to have a base level to ensure that people are coming into the organisation that can demonstrate the level of intelligence, but also a measure, whether we wholeheartedly agree with it or not, the standardised measure of intelligence, rightly or wrongly, it's probably a clumsy way of saying this.
Like academic mental arithmetic and GCSE level stuff that we need to be safe and competent on the fire ground.
Yeah.
Essential stuff. General English, can I interpret information and emails and stuff? Beyond that, I don't know as the skill set walks hand in hand with competency as that person's ability rises.
But I don't believe we've even got a consistent approach in the fire sector about even what is that entry level GCSE levels within the fire.
I don't know.
It's different.
Wide enough globally on that.
Absolutely different in all services. There isn't a base level.
If they sign up to the apprenticeship, it has to be the same though, doesn't it?
So,
but a lot of places don't sign up to the apprenticeship.
So I know of examples where people have signed up for level 7 degree apprenticeships, but they haven't got basic maths GCSEs. So on mirroring alongside that, they will also do a maths GCSE course as well. So you still need to get it. So I suppose the bit where I'm coming from is it's all about how we support our people through it. That for me is the key element. And absolutely, it shouldn't be, do you know what, we need you to get these 4 IFE exams, off you go, crack on and get it done. We need as organisations to understand the neurodiversity of people, to understand how people can learn in different styles. We need to understand how we can extract the intelligence out of people for them to be able to get that academic qualification. Because actually one thing I've seen is actually getting academic qualifications is far more flexible and eclectic than it probably ever was 20 years ago. 20 years ago,
remarkably.
You're in a dark room, you write a load of things on a piece of paper, there you go. So we need to also mirror that in regards to how we support people through those processes.
I think that's a big journey for our training schools, isn't it? Because we're moving from, you used to be an instructor, and in some places we still call them that, and I'm not trying to play silly word game swaps, but we're in adult education now. We're teaching people. But a lot of us don't have teaching qualifications, myself included. Do you know what I mean? But when I speak to and hear from my sister and my missus and others, when they talk about teaching and the profession of, my missus, her degree was on it. pedagogy, I think it's called, isn't it? Pedagogy. Yeah. It's like how people learn.
Yeah.
That is a whole field in itself.
Yeah.
Whereas, when I joined, and I'm sure it might have been even not worse, but different when you joined, I'll just shout louder at you and say it again.
Yeah.
Are you stupid?
Yeah.
Right, run to the tree, bring me back a leaf. that was a little bit of or for me, there was press-ups and hose rolling and other things involved. And I wonder how many great people we lost during that
absolutely.
process.
And I think it goes hand in hand with culture. So I worked in training department for a number of years. When I was in there, we didn't have even things like tackle qualifications or petals qualifications, the base level teaching and assessing qualifications. We changed that. I changed that quite quickly and said, actually, the base level we need to start getting is if you're going to become the word instructor was as it was. If you want to be an instructor, we need to give you those base level training and assessing qualifications, because that absolutely then also has a segue into the culture of how we want to teach our people, how we want to educate our people. So, so an element of it is we've got. It sounds really obvious when you say it, but we've got a lot to learn from the teaching industry.
We have.
But as culturally wise, we've always think we know best on how to train people because we've got really well-established training departments, which doing a fantastic job. They're doing an amazing job on a day-by-day basis in regards to developing an operational competence. But there's more we can do in regards to developing in that area, and there's so much research, academia that we can take from the teaching.
Well, we're benefiting from the rest of society because adult education has exploded as well. People in their mid-30s that want to change careers.
Yeah.
Well, there's people in their 30s, 40s, 50s going back to university or college or whatever. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel and do this by ourselves. There is a remarkable amount we can learn from outside sectors. And that's where I think there is some benefit of, like you say, people transitioning into leadership and development departments or training departments, whatever they want to call them, who have a lot of knowledge from like they're an ex-head teacher or whatever, and you go, well, come and help us, and they go, well, what's your learner's journey? How are you taking them from the unknown to the known? How do you get them from consciously incompetent and around that loop? And I think it's just a whole reframing, and I've had so many conversations on that topic, and I'd love to have some more people from the education sector on the podcast to talk about how do adults learn, because our neuroplasticity shrinks a lot as we get older.
Yeah.
They say, how much can you teach? I was speaking to a French teacher, my daughter's French teacher actually the other day, and they've got children themselves that speak like 7 languages. I said, how many languages can a kid learn? Yeah. And they said they will learn as many as you're willing to teach them.
Yeah.
It really isn't a capacity issue.
Yeah.
It's they are so remarkably absorbent at that age. It's just about whether you make it interesting.
Yeah.
I want to take a minute to just tell you about something that I think you're going to be really interested in. Next September, firefighters from across the UK and Ireland will be travelling to Atlanta, Georgia for something truly special. It's the United for 9/11. It's the Memorial Stair Climb. Now, this isn't just any event. It's a once-in-a-generation tribute where 343 firefighters, one for every FDNY firefighter who gave their life on September 11th, will climb 110 floors in their honour. It's about more than just a physical challenge. It's about remembering sacrifice, pushing ourselves, and standing shoulder to shoulder across services and across nations. It's a chance to honour the legacy of 9/11, to pay tribute to our fallen firefighters, and to test your mental and physical strength, and to raise an awareness around mental health and resilience in the fire service. Whether you take part in this climb or not, support from home, or simply help spread the word, you can be part of it. This is about unity, remembrance, and respect. So if you want to learn more, head over to www.memorialstairclimb.co.uk, or on Instagram, check out united_911 climb. This is going to be something powerful. I hope you can make it. I hope you can support it. Now back to the show.
And it's helpful when we're trying to align that to adults who have got so many other life pressures that's going on around them that are closing down their minds and not giving the ability to open that up. And then traditionally, what we do is we just we develop people through into instructor roles because, if I'm honest, one of the core elements is because they've been really great operational
Yes.
partners. Why wouldn't they be able to impart all that knowledge onto them? And actually, they can. But that missing ingredient about how they can transfer that knowledge into somebody's mind that's going to stay is crikey, that's why there's a teaching
industry.
It's
an accidental thing about what you're optimizing for, isn't it? You're great in command control at level 2 incidents. You're just like, whoa, you're so good at it. That doesn't make you a good teacher. It just doesn't. Because I've fallen foul of that. Just a bit of transparency for a second. Like, I'm so passionate about it and I love it so much. I must be good at this. And I've fallen foul of it because I don't have as many ways to communicate it as I thought I did. And the way I thought it come across didn't come across that way at times. And that's had, without being too political about it, it's had bad outcomes. And that's not through malice. It's just out of wrongly deployed passion is probably the way I'd describe it.
Yeah.
I want to change gears.
Okay.
You've done a lot of work in your roles with major incidents, with severe things like flooding, and something we've not spoken a great deal about in the past in the podcast is around the fire service's interconnectivity with other first responders, second responders, all that sort of jazz. Things like TCGs, local resilience forums. I think that would be a good thing to unfold because I think you've had a unique perspective on that. And I think it's a lot of things people don't really get a lot of exposure to. Talk to us about the mindset shift that's required with major incidents. Because again, this is a big communication piece because you may not be the authority in those conversations. You are just part of the puzzle piece. We're having a lot more major incidents, whether it be flooding, whether it be wildfires. Talk to us about your experiences in that. Maybe start by explaining exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And then when you've seen it done well and not well, and how that folds into Jessup and all other avenues of why we need to get a lot better at this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I'm the chair of Lincolnshire's Local Resilience Forum, have been for many years. You're absolutely right. The role of the LRFs is becoming more demanding, it's becoming more focused because of the amount of events that's coming through. I think there's also there is more of a government focus in regards to the role of the LRF and how all agencies should be coming together to try and resolve major emergencies. So how does it broadly work? So it all links in, without getting all the technical stuff, it all links into the Civil Contingencies Act 2004, and that states that in the event of an emergency or a major incident, the Local Resilience Forum will come together and it will be a coordinating element for all agencies to work to a common purpose to resolve that event. What
does that look like practically? So like as a Grenfell example, we might be at the tip of the sword, but all of the stuff that we throw over our shoulder, where are all these people going? How are they being fed? What's going to happen to them for the next 6 months? Yeah,
so the LRF, once an emergency has been declared, what's called the SCG, Strategic Coordinating Group, come together with all the strategic leads of all the agencies that will be involved in this. So we have Category 1 and Category 2 agencies. But basically, if I'll use flooding because that's probably my most lived experience. So we'll have...
Lincolnshire's remarkably flat, isn't it?
It is.
For people that have never visited.
It is remarkably flat. Beautiful county, absolutely stunning county, but it is flat, yeah. We've got a couple of hills in the Wolds, which is... So the SCG comes together as strategic leaders to really understand what is the emergency, what is setting out what the strategic objectives, what we want to achieve, what is the outcome that needs to be done, and then set the structure below to be able to manage that. Now, the structure will be more often than not a TCG, the Tactical Coordinating Group, which will mirror all those same agencies but at a tactical level. And then underneath that, there will be what we call operational cells. So there'll be a multi-agency information cell, an operations cell, health and social care cell, volunteers cell, and so on and so forth. And warning and forming, which is a really key element of the function of the whole of the structure. All those then come together and start pulling information and all the data and the situational awareness. So we set what's called a battle rhythm, which is a common phrase. So my role, more often than not, as the chair of the SCG, will set, once we've got the full briefing, situational awareness, we'll set a battle rhythm. Okay, we'll meet I'm using broad language, and we'll meet every hour. TCG, I need you to meet beforehand to get the situation to brief us. TCG, you set your battle rhythm for all yourselves to come together. So we've got a real nice flow of information that's coming through.
So who would go to a TCG versus an SCG for people that don't know?
So TCG will be your tactical level. So predominantly middle leaders, probably level 2, 3 officers, probably level 3 across the board. So from your police, fire, ambulance, local authority, public health, environment agency,
stuff like that.
All those elements. SCG is your strategic leaders, but it's strategic leaders who have the autonomy and decision making for your organisation to make decisions on behalf of the whole of the organisation. So now this is where the interesting dynamic is. I chair the SCG. I do not represent fire. I'll be there in a fire uniform, but I have to have a separate senior leader, strategic leader there to represent fire, to make decisions on fire. My role
That's got to be interesting.
Yeah, so my role is a coordinating role. So the chair's role is really fundamentally to ensure we create an environment for every single agency to be able to outline what the risks are, outline what capabilities, resources and assets they have available to support this incident, and get to an agreed position. This is what we are going to do and this is what we need to happen. We also have, which is the other element of it, you'll have a government liaison officer, predominantly from MHCLG there, and they will be looking...
What's MHCLG?
I
hate using acronyms when I don't know what they are.
Housing and Communities and Local Government. It's where fire sits under the MHCLG now. We was in Home Office. We moved under to MHCLG, the government department, in April. So that's our where fire.
What do they do? Sorry, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but just so we understand what they do.
So what they have, their ultimate responsibility is the effectiveness of running of the fire sector. In this environment, they're the government liaison role that will feed into COBRA. So if COBRA,
that's Cabinet Office Briefing Room A,
Cabinet Office Briefing Room. Yeah. So and COBRA may be chaired by the Prime Minister. If not, it'll be chaired by a cabinet minister. And what they will be wanting, they'll be wanting to know what is the information. It's called a CRIP. It's a common recognised information picture. What they'll want to know is what's happening in Lincolnshire. What are the risks, as in national risks? What is it that they need from us to be able to support that incident?
Yeah.
MHCLG.
So if it affects an airport or a major arterial road or something to do with large-scale animal or agriculture, is it going to affect national or is it just a regional, local issue?
And is it happening anywhere else in the country? So so how do we coordinate that national support? So our role as an SCG is not only coordinating the strategic role for dealing with the event, it's also being the conduit for briefing up to government in regards to what's happening. So fundamentally, what is the purpose of bringing everybody together? It's recognising we've got an event that not one single agency has the resources or the capability to deal with it on their own. So the way that we will come together in that formal agreement is we will share our resources, we will share our capabilities, and we will collectively pull together to resolve that incident. And that's for me, that's not a conditional. That is, we absolutely will. And where that practically comes in place. So my fire representative will say, do you know, I'll be able to get access to loads of national resilience resources, HVPs. We will put in a request. And
high volume pumps for people that want to follow along.
Yeah. Environment Agency, they'll say, well, do you know, we've got these huge pumps that we can provide. We'll bring them along to the party as well. Internal draining boards will say, yeah, we've got a load of these pumps as well, and we can open up other solutions and areas to relieve it as well. We will do that as well. So collectively, we're going to come to a position where we can relieve the suffering of the flooding in that area, because we can't do it as fire on our own. Environment Agency can't do that on our own, but we will come together to do it together. Underneath all that, that's where the tactical plans and the operational plans all get put in place and get delivered.
What's a weird, surprising example, perhaps, that might surprise people that accelerates all the way to the top in Cobra quickly? Something that's like a weird thing that you think, really? That's not a big thing. But all of a sudden it is a massive thing. Yeah.
So you can never probably predict what's going to be a priority for Cobra. Probably not necessarily an unsurprising, but sometimes it is the level of detail that they require. So if we're talking about flooding, they may want to know a specific demographic that is being affected within Lincolnshire. Now, that may not be obvious to me why they want to know that information. But what I do know is it will fit into a wider national issue that's probably
if it's a type of culture or protected characteristic that you're just unaware of, and there's some national sensitivity around this, and it looks like we're maybe unconsciously preferentially looking after a certain group that we just don't realize just because it's where the emergency is.
Yeah, and absolutely, and also I won't be cited necessarily what are the other government issues.
You need to know, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We all in that at some point. But the other element of it is sometimes the timing of it is really precious, because as we all know, within any level of operational command that we have to deal with the information that we've got at that moment in time, and actually it comes outdated very, very quickly. By the nature of the command structure of an LRF, it will be a little bit more slow moving than what we are used to with on the operational incident ground. Operational incident ground, command decisions are made quickly. The impact of that decision is seen very quickly. LRS are a lot more slower pace, and also by definition is one of the other elements. It's a far more, has to be a collaborative and inclusive leadership style within that environment, because you have to ensure that everybody has that ability to feed into the decision-making process. So I think you mentioned it right early on. I think the evolution of LRS that's been fantastic over the last few years is the absolute adoption and embedding of JESIP.
Because it's provided a platform to have lots of tabletop exercises to understand the timeframes and limitations of other organisations. Because if we turn around and go, right, we need 10 community centres to put these displaced people, and they go, well, give us 3 days. What? Yeah. Need them now. Just open the doors. And you're like, well, that's not how it works.
Yeah. And the interesting thing which I've seen evolve through JESIP is as emergency service, blue light services, JESIP's our bread and butter. We should be.
Fire have adopted it very well. Yeah, some people less so.
Broadly,
my words, not yours.
Broadly, it's well adopted. You start bringing in the non-emergency service agencies. It's a different language. It's a different concept because it isn't part of their normal
day-to-day vernacular. No.
Yeah. So there's two sides to LRF roles, which I'll indulge me. I'll just spend a couple of minutes. Is one that I've just been talking about is actually when we're set up for operational response, and that's almost the bit that people will probably see more of, is when the LRF is actually in its operational environment. Now, that can only happen successfully if we have the training, the exercising, the bringing all of those agencies together regularly for everybody to know each other, to build those relationships, for everybody to understand what the operational environment will be like. That is the work of the LRF does in the background, 365 days a year, reviewing emergency plans, making sure they're fit for purpose, exercising, training, and doing CPD events. Because I've been clearly a very clear advocate within our LRF, and we come together a couple of times a year as the whole of the LRF for CPD days. And one of our purposes about that is that I don't want the first time that you meet your counterpart in a TCG and SEG to be at an incident. I need you to spend this time to get to know each other out of the operational environment, because we haven't got the time to forge relationships when we're in that environment. So we use the peacetime opportunities to do the training, to do the exercising, to have the meetings, to work through our collective business plans, if nothing else, to build those relationships. And what I see the outcome of that is, when I am in the position of chairing SCG, all the people around that table from all different agencies, I know.
Should be familiar faces, yeah.
Absolutely.
I heard it described by a police commander at a really good Jessup training I attended a while ago. He was like, time to learn to dance is not after the music starts.
Of course, it's absolutely.
Because that's way too late. Okay, you're introducing yourself to someone for the first time and you're just treading on each other's toes and elbowing each other in the face.
Yeah.
And it's horrible and painful experience.
And it isn't. And I think it's even more important within the LRF environment. When we're on the incident ground, it is very command and controlling, isn't it? We've got the culture of accepting, I need that to happen, I need it to happen now.
Yeah, it's less of a conversation. We all understand why it needs to be done, just get it done.
Yeah. When we're in an LRF environment, particularly when we're getting agencies that don't always work within the LRF, we need to allow the time to tease out all the information, because if we don't get the right information, we're not going to make the best decisions. And also you need to recognizing it can be quite an intimidating position to be in. Crikey, we've got an emergency going on. We are collectively going to have to try and find a solution for this. And we can sometimes, from an emergency service perspective, I'm going to use a clumsy language, be a bit blasé about that, because we've kind of grown up within a command and control.
Everything's an emergency. It's an emergency every day.
But a lot of agencies are not exposed to that environment. So you have to create that collaborative, supportive environment for the only focus on getting the information out to make the right decisions.
You can see, like you say, sometimes when people move into those roles from a level 2 and upwards perspective, unconsciously bulldoze conversations at times, because police have very clear legal powers that a lot of us don't have. So they can do it accidentally sometimes. We're very command and control, and we love wearing our rank markings everywhere we go for some blindingly frustrating unknown reason that I hate all the time. And we can do it accidentally as well. Yeah. Because we fall foul to the hippo's opinion, the highest paid person's opinion.
Yeah.
And Mark's the chief. And
yeah.
So his experience has its boundaries as well. And he is an expert in this one very small field that is relevant to this part of the problem. He is not an expert in the other things. Yeah. So let's listen to the experts, because that's why they're here.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I know I've fallen foul of that when I've chaired SCGs in the past, to be honest with you. I've unconsciously driven a direction of travel of a conversation down a route, because I think that's the right thing to do. This uniform is really beneficial, but sometimes it can also give a perception that we'll just wait and see what the chair's direction of travel is, and that you need to be really mindful about that.
It's hard. I want to flip scripts, and also want to be conscious of time, but this might be a good opportunity to segue into this, back into leadership for a little minute. What's one of the things you used to really value in leadership, or you used to think was really important that perhaps you no longer do?
I think as I've got older and probably a bit more experienced, I think specific knowledge, if that makes sense. So I used to think being a good leader meant you needed to know everything. You was there to provide the answers. I think as I've got a little bit older, got a little bit more experience, and also recognition of my own limitations, I think that it's important to have the knowledge. It is important to have a valued opinion of things. It's not the be all and end all at all by any stretch of the imagination. I think the value of leadership is to be able to get the best out of the people around you, to be able to provide the answers and to provide the direction of travel.
But when there's big consequences, how do you temper that anxiety of knowing that you will be responsible for it, even if you don't know which is the correct answer?
That comes with a responsibility of leadership, but then it is my responsibility to ensure that if I don't know it, I get the right people around me, or I get the access to the people that are going to give me the information for me to make an informed decision. It's not I can't afford the onus for me to be the single point of information, because that's a frailty. But I do. For me, my challenge is, as a leader, is to ensure that I have access to all the right information and the right people around, and also knowing when I'm getting the wrong information as well.
That's hard.
It is.
The three famous B's: something baffles brains. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
You use enough big words and acronyms and mnemonics.
Yeah.
You watch me tap dance my way through this one.
Yeah. It's a real, and I'm sure you've heard the simple two words that you've heard many, many times, but whenever anybody's briefing me or when anybody's giving me information, I outwardly say, more often than not, but inwardly I say, yep, so what? So what? Just keep on saying, be that annoying child, Mark. Be that annoying child that keeps asking, but why? Because then it soon teases out whether the information is credible or not, and until you get to a point where this is what we got. We're going to have to make a decision one way or another. I think the other thing is also being quite understanding of ourselves. Is, well, we can't keep judging ourselves on hindsight. We will make decisions on the information that we got at that moment in time. And the second element is we're not always going to get the decisions right. And having that, and I'm sure many people have said this to you many, many times, we can't keep afford having this implied pressure that you have to get every single decision right every single time. And don't keep judging yourselves in hindsight.
I see that in training schools a lot, just as one example. And I also always I start compiling the debrief episodes that we do from a genuine belief that had I have had the same experience and the same thing, I'd have probably made the same decision. So don't for 1 second start going, and then they did this.
Yeah.
Well, hang on a minute, Pete. Who do you think you are? What are you on about? You know what I mean? Hindsight and certainty is only available to you tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Learn from it, but don't judge it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not what we're here for. And I think that's the thing when you try and create psychological safety and debriefs in organizations. That's really difficult. I worked in an operational assurance department for a while, and we would put together debriefs. And it was very, very, very difficult at times. And I think it was a direct reflection of the lack of trust at that time in the organization around gotchas. And this is a learning exercise. I'm not going to put it on the front of the Daily Mail. This is just the inside our organization. And if we can't talk about it, good Lord, what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing here? Do you know what I mean? That's where I think having like red teams, like the military do red teams. And you ever heard the term pre-mortems?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's imagine this is the day after the event was launched and this has happened and it's gone really wrong. Give me 12 reasons why it might have gone wrong.
Yeah.
Some of them we're not going to bother with because the meteor hit and whatever happened. Okay. Yeah. Risk matrix, likelihood and all that jazz. Yeah. But some of these we could go, well, that might be a thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's difficult. I wanted to ask you around leadership development. If we live in a utopia, financial constraints aren't a thing, resources aren't a thing, what things would you put more resources into if finance wasn't an issue when it comes to developing our leaders? Because we do focus a lot on competency in inverted commas and command courses and SME courses versus, I term them as soft skills at time, and apparently I need to stop calling them soft skills because
they're not that soft.
They're not soft. Essential skills.
Yeah.
But then you're falling into buzzword, emotional intelligence, things like that, cultural awareness. Where are we not putting? And I'm not saying this like you do all of these and you're great. Maybe even from a frame of what do you wish you'd have had a more focused development of might be a useful framing. Yeah,
I would. Magic wand stuff. I would love for us to be having leadership development and pathways from pretty much day one of everybody joining an organisation and it just being part of a general competence work stream. 'Cause whether people are going to step into leadership roles through the general essence of good leadership is what everybody should be investing in. I think for the fire sector for many, many years, we're getting better at it, but we only start to investing in leaders once they're in leadership roles, and probably from middle and leadership upwards. We're getting better at the supervisory level as well, but actually, why aren't we bringing that in when people are joining the organisation from day one? It should be embedded in everything that we do, in all of our roles. So, because leadership isn't something you switch on and off. It's daily. It's every conversation. It's every interaction you need to be part of, and it shouldn't just come with a label that you are a leader, so therefore you need leadership development. Everybody should have it, because the receiving of the leadership dialogue is just as much as important as delivering of leadership dialogue, and that will enable us to have a clearer pathway all the way through organisations. That would be my number one wish list: is let's start leadership from day one.
But how do we work more consciously on some of those emotional intelligence bits? Because like you've said, it's not something you switch on and off. And the problem with me giving you personal feedback, if I say to you, Mark, the way you communicate to me is if I feel like I'm listening into the wind, or I'm, it's so direct, you're so passionate about it, and you're just so knowledgeable, or whatever. It just seems like you're talking at me, or I feel like you're not trustworthy, or I feel like you don't listen to me. The problem with knowing and admitting that those things aren't things you switch on and off is that can start to feel, if done incorrectly, like a personal attack. Because likelihood is you don't just do this at work. Maybe you do this to your missus. Maybe you do it to your kids. Maybe you do it to your husband. Do you know what I mean? And that can feel, I can't just say, it's not as easy as saying, I need to put you on a hazmat course. You know what I mean? This is a personal thing.
Yeah.
And I think our inability to have those difficult conversations in a very good manner means that we just avoid it. And then people end up going through organizations, sometimes vertically, still demonstrating these behaviors, completely oblivious to the damage they're causing.
Yeah, I think we need to put the whole of that subject on the same footing as importance as operational competence. So we wouldn't accept people not going through their breathing operating training to have good qualified instruction. Often we, particularly with our breathing operating instructors, will probably externally ensure that people are accredited, they've got all the skills. This is the same, for me, the same level of skill set. I ask the question to myself, have we got the ability to do that internally? Because I think it's an area where there's is right for us looking outside the fire sector to see who we can bring in, who we can link in, who are really specialised in this area to be able to support us in regards to this area. One of the challenge clearly that will come with that, and this will always be a common theme, is we need to find to carve out the time and the capacity for people to be able to be part of that. Then that comes with the additional funding that we need to ensure that we can create that space and create that capacity. So there's a lot of challenges and problems that come along with that. But I'm going to take my caveat and my opportunity to get out of jail free card with what you said. This is my magic wand thing is.
Do you get much of that in the NFCC? Because as you get up higher, it gets a bit lonelier.
Yeah.
But also maybe you get the opportunity to interact more with people outside your own organisations in a similar place, facing a similar challenge.
Yeah. So what I've noticed within the NFCC over the 5 years or so when I've been particularly more engaged with at Chief Fire Officer level, I've seen that network and that access grow quite significantly. You're right, and I know it's said many times, but I'm not going to shy away from it. It can be a really lonely place.
I bet it's massively lonely.
It can't, because there's,
Because you don't want to show vulnerability. You don't want to be seen to not have the answers. Maybe you do sometimes, but like, who do you go to when your head's falling off?
yeah, yeah. And I've got good strong relationships with my chief officer colleagues. So absolutely, we got good networks in there. I've managed to get access from other chief executives from different sectors, which again are there's so many similarities in regards to challenges that we're all facing. But linking in regards to that, but I think we all need to find out what is our safe space to be able to rationalise where our pressures are and to be able to
vent as well.
Yeah, to vent, decompose, to be able to not carry that with you 24/7, because that's yes, there is a personal impact in regards to that comes with that, but also it makes you a less effective leader if you're not being able to rationalise that. So yeah, it is a challenge. But I think it makes it more challenging is we've not started that leadership development journey right at the beginning of people's careers. We're only you get into the roles, and crikey, we need to give you a load of leadership development.
Yeah, you get into the SLT, and then you do the man in the mirror thing, or you do the executive leadership program, and you're like, well, I could have done with this a while back because I've already done. There's a lot of stuff in my wake of damage I've already done.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you might have that horrible realization where you go, oh my God, I've been doing this for years.
Yeah, but it is and I don't think that's just relevant to chief officers roles. I think you can align that to pretty much most leadership roles throughout the organisation. And again, and I'm going to keep touching on it. I think we need to recognise leadership is all the time. You don't think, I'm just going to be a leader between 10 and 12 today, and I'm going to think I'll take the afternoon off. I'll just work about. It's everything. It encompasses you. So we do need to ensure that recognition is afforded to every level of leadership within the organisation.
I want to be respectful of time, so I'm going to wrap it up with a bit of a personal note, if you'll facilitate me. We spoke about how lonely it is. How do you make sure you're more than just the thing you do? How do you stay connected to who you are outside of the uniform? And on that same note, we spoke about on-call and families. Respect to you and other senior leaders who also have families now. How do you, or what boundaries have you had to learn to put in place to protect your personal or your family time?
Yeah, it's a really interesting, and I reflected on this a little bit previously, and particularly when I first become a chief officer, and having the benefit of being around the fire service for many, many years. There's an interesting dynamic that's probably not talked or mentioned before. 20 years ago, when people were going into chief officers roles, I'm being really broad brush now, but there were generally people who are quite late in their career who probably had children that were grown up and or not even live with them now. What I look around now with our senior leadership cohort, there are so many younger people coming through into those top senior roles.
Everyone's retiring so quick, so you're jumping up the ladder really fast, aren't we?
So one of the dynamics that comes up, there's many of us that do have young families, and the demands of being a principal officer or a chief officer isn't always conducive for having young families about if you don't recognise it. So I suppose and I think that's something that is not really mentioned much. But I'm quite open about that. I do have a young family, and I have a family that deserves to have a father. I've got an amazing wife that deserves to have a husband about. So and she's got a healthy career as well. So we need to balance that together. So how do I manage that through? So I'm quite open that there were times where at 3:00 I'm going to pick up my kids. I'm going to pick them up from school because I've not done that for a long while, and it's.
You realise you've rescheduled that station visit 4 times now, Mark.
Yeah.
So, that you did say you would do that. I appreciate it's little Johnny's whatever sports day.
But that's a balance. Little Johnny, my son's not called Johnny, but little Johnny goes to school every day. I'm not going to be picking him up from school every single day, and I can go and see that stations. And you're absolutely right. There is an absolute balance behind that, because there is a right expectation that the personnel within Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue, they should see me, they want to see me, they want to speak to me, and I want to see them, and I want to speak to them, and I will make time for doing that. Our on-call stations, they will be there in the evenings. So is it the evenings that's the most convenient for me? Well, that's irrelevant. It's not convenient for them either, is it? They're going away from their families to be able to do training. So
you've got to be all things to all people sometimes, and that is... because now you're saying, like, there will be people that will be in senior leadership roles now for 10 or 15 years. I remember speaking, oh God, that's horrible. I'm going to forget his name. Oh my God. He was spent as a chief fire officer of Lancashire. Who was that?
Justin Johnson.
I hate that you had to remind me, because he's such a lovely bloke, and he's invited me to his new house to go through some really cool stuff. Justin's lovely. He spent it was a rare one that spent a long time in senior leadership position, because like you said, back then, a couple of years, then you were out. We're going to get people, like you've just said, because they're coming in young. They might be chief fire officer for 12 years, 15 years.
Yeah, and you need to ensure that you've got that resilience going through there, and your family's resilient, and you like that. So how do I deal with it? I mean, there's a couple of really simple things. I love walking my dog in the morning. So I get up extra. I need to walk my dog. It's a time where my wife always says, "You're not the most sociable person when you walk the dog, are you?" I said, "No, it's not, because that's the time I have my music on. I walk my dog. I've got space to think. I can prepare."
Got to fill your own cup up first.
Absolutely. I like to go out for a run every now and then, and again, yes, because of the fitness and element of it, but that is just a great clearing of my mind. I can do that. The second, third, fourth, I forget how many times I say things. The element, I've got a wonderfully supportive family, and my wife she knows the fire service very well, and she'll also know little signs in me when she'll say, "You're not present, Mark," as in I'll be at home, but I'm
you're here, but you're not here.
And all I need is for it just to quietly and politely. I said, "No, you're right," and it flicks a switch, and I'll be back in the room. And I think that's important. And I think it's also knowing that collective.
Has that been there since the beginning, though? When you first, because I worry most about people that move into it in the first year or two, if they don't get that balance right quickly, that becomes the consistent way.
Yeah.
Because your husband, wife will go, "I get it. You're new into role. You want to make a good impression. You want to show everybody you care. How long are you going to be like this for?" Because it's been a year and a half now, and we are not getting any better. I'm not going to keep doing this. So you got to give me an understanding, give me a time frame on when this is going to ramp down a little bit, or when you're going to get on top of this, because this is not what I signed up for.
And it's a real personal challenge. I mean, if I'm honest, as I've got older, and I use that phrase a lot, I find in my life.
How old are you now?
I'm 52.
Okay.
But as I've got older, and again, as I've had children through my life, that does change my perspective, and it does sometimes realign the priorities. And I'm just going to share a quick personal time where it was really symbolic for me, that did change my outlook. I was working in the training department a number of years ago, and I was very driven. I was at work, present at work. That was my drive, and I remember I was developing operational training courses, and I wanted to get this absolutely nailed. And I was working in my office, and absolutely I didn't even realise that people had gone home, and I looked up at the clock, and it was 2:00 in the morning, and it was just one of those life moments. It was just, what are you doing, Mark? What on earth are you doing? And it was shut the computer down. I walked out, did the course, and it stayed with me today. And we're talking, crikey, 15 plus years ago. This was longer than that, maybe. But that moment has stuck with me through my career. You need a sense check in regards to that. So now I'm in this role. Absolutely, I can't shy away from the fact that there's going to be peaks and troughs. There's going to be times where work is pressured and work is demanding, but also it's recognising there's going to be times where just work is going to have to take a pause. And if you can't do that, then my challenge to myself would be is why am I not enabling my team to pick all this up? Because we're a collective, we're a team approach. And I've got great people in my team. I've got fantastically capable people in my team who I should not be that integral to the whole of that cog that I can't switch my phone off for a day.
Don't we get it wrapped up in our identity, though? And I know I've had him on a few times, but I think Dan Stevens was a bugger for this. And he knows I've said it to him, and I'll say it publicly. Like, he wants to keep his radio on all the time when he was in the job. And I heard it best, actually, from a doctor, because apparently doctors are one of the worst for taking all their annual leave, because they go, but Mark's wife is pregnant. Mrs. Baxter's pregnant. They need me. The baby could drop in it. No. They need a doctor. Your fire service. They need a leader to make a decision. They don't need you, because if you explode tomorrow, guess what the fire service will do? Be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
They'll advertise your job on the NFCC website, and someone else will be in it in 2 months' time. The only people that will remember that you were sat in the training department until 2 a.m. and you didn't come home at the weekends is your missus and your kids.
Absolutely.
You can't complete it. Yeah.
And I always and the team, and as I know that when I go on my holiday with my family, people are bored because just leave me.
Unless there's a death in service, then I'll definitely come back. But other than that, they're fine. They'll sort it.
Yeah. And I think what comes with that, and it's a bit of a leadership recognition that, again, that I've learned over the years, or I've come to accept in the years. As a leader, you shouldn't be the most important person in the room, and I think that's something that if you're thinking that you are the only person that can make a decision, or that you're the only person that's going to be able to solve this problem, then my question will be the effectiveness of the leadership style.
Yeah. Who have you suffocated that makes you think you are the answer to everything? Yeah. There's a little bit of an ego. It's a harsh thing, because most of the time it comes from good.
It does.
I just want to help. And I know I could do it.
Yeah.
I know I could do it.
And the reciprocating challenge is to let everybody else know and have the confidence that, no, I'm not the person who's going to make a decision on this. You can make the decision. So it's really a two-way challenge. But
great leaders grow leaders, don't they? That's the
absolutely. Yeah.
We've been talking for over 2 hours, and I've loved every second of it, and I think we could do another 6. But I want to be respectful of your time, and I also say to people, don't make good the enemy of perfect. I'd love to have you back on, mate. People won't know we spent some time together at the Blue Light Show.
It's a great experience.
I want to do more stuff with lots of different guests. I'd love to speak maybe in 6 months, 12 months. I didn't realize you're actually that young. I'm not blowing smoke up your behind here, but like, you could genuinely probably still be doing this job in 8 years. Who knows? I'm sure your deputies might hate it because they probably want your job. But you've got to go. Phil Garrigan said that's the first question you get when you become a chief. When are you retiring?
And we literally had the same conversation. Congratulations. When you're going?
When you're going? But look, mate, I hope you remain in some role, in some capacity, still involved in this sort of stuff. And I hope we can have some more conversations in the future. But please thank your team and your loved ones and everyone for sacrificing 2 hours today, mate. And I look forward to speaking again in the future.
Great. I really enjoyed it. Good to see you, Pete.
Thanks, mate.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you took a lot away from that episode. We started the Firefighters podcast to develop, inspire, connect, motivate, represent, and most importantly, celebrate the world of incredible emergency services operators and the wider sector through this series of wide-ranging conversations. We really love creating this podcast and bringing it to so many people. Did you know you can also find these on YouTube? We do a lot of video podcasts now. You can head over to our YouTube page and follow, subscribe there. And as a final ask from us, whatever platform you're on, please rate the podcast. It really helps us as a key performance indicator to reach more and more people. I've been your host, Pete Wakefield. This has been the Firefighters Podcast. And wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be happy, live with intention, and where possible, please remember and support your firefighters and first responders. I'll see you next time.